exceptional.
We're going to tell you how the Cincinnati Reds are going to get back on the winning track this... Hang on. David Bell did what to the lineup?
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, and we are live here on YouTube. We're your daily source for all things Cincinnati Reds. I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr. We love baseball. We love the Reds. We've taken our love for the game, our love for this team, and we have turned it into information for you. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, on today's podcast, we're going to tell you how the Reds can get back in the win column. We're going to preview matchups. We're going to predict who's going to have good weekends. We're going to take your questions and comments because we are live. But, man, we're going to start with this lineup because David Bell is on something, y'all, and we have got to talk about it. Before we get into it, let's shout out the sponsor of today's episode. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use the promo code in all lowercase letters, lockedonmlb, for a first deposit match of up to $100. All right, Jeff, I have at times in the past joked about David Bell just putting all the names in a hat and pulling names from that hat. And I thought I made it clear that I was being sarcastic, that I was joking. We know he listens to us. Apparently he put all the names in a hat and pulled them one by one.
I think he put more names for Stuart Fairchild and Tyler Stevenson and Nick Martini than he did the rest of the players or something. I don't know how he came up with this. Like, I just need someone. Anyone, Nick Kroll, Freddie Benavides, hell, Elly de la Cruz, set him down and be like, yo, you should probably put your best talent higher up in the order. Like, Stuart Fairchild does not deserve to bat third. We've been beating around this bush. I've been beating around this bush because I saw him batting third the other day whenever CES was scratched late for an illness. And that's the reason. So, for anyone wondering, the reason why Candelario and CES are not in the lineup, they've been dealing with an undisclosed illness, of which there's not a whole lot of details that are going around about, but it's something that Nick Martinez dealt with last weekend in Chicago and stuff like that. But suffice it to say, Stuart Fairchild should not just be taking the place of Christian Encarnacion-Strand in the order. And this makes no ever-loving sense. Like, all right, Jonathan India, Spencer Steer, 1-2, fine. That's good. Spencer Steer deserves more at-bats. After that, you lost me, Steve. You lost me.
Yeah, with a left-hander going for the Angels tonight in Anderson, I understand the Reds options are limited. They're not their best selves when there's a left-hander on the mound. We know this.
Clearly. Yeah.
But to bat, look, I'm one of the biggest Tyler Stevenson fans around. I mean, you know this,
Right.
but to put him in the 4 spot right now is almost like sacrificing anything you can do at the top of the lineup. It just confounds me.
And we've said that a breakout is coming, but it hasn't happened yet, right? They didn't play a game yesterday, right? Like, I know they did.
They were off yesterday.
It wasn't like a secret game.
My sources confirmed they had the day off.
5 for 5 or something. Yeah, no, I don't get it at all. And the reason for my fervor of why on earth Stuart Fairchild is batting third is that you, me, Cameron, Josh, all the guys in the comments section, we all have the same number of extra base hits as Stuart Fairchild does. Why is he batting third? That needs to be Elly. I mean, I would advocate for Will Benson there. I'd advocate for Jake Fraley there. And I get it. It's lefties and all that other stuff. But that is the only reason I could see him batting third. And we talked about this, and you mentioned it. Like, the Reds aren't their best selves against lefties, and I kind of want to dive into that a little bit more in the second segment when we look at the pitching matchups, because Anderson is a lefty. Patrick Sandoval, who's pitching on Saturday, is a lefty, so the Reds are going to do this a lot this weekend. But it is a simple idea that your best talent hits higher up in the order so they get more at bats. I never want to see a world where Stuart Fairchild gets more at bats than Elly De La Cruz. Who is David Bell being held hostage? Did he lose a bet? What are we doing?
All right, let me play devil's advocate for just a second. I'm going to try. I'm going to try. 389, 476, 389. That's Stuart Fairchild's slash line against left-handed pitchers.
Okay.
389 in the 3-hole. Now, granted, that's in 21 plate. That's 21 plate appearances, Jeff. That's a sample size of 21 plate appearances. However, he's hitting left-handers this year thus far. So, I guess hope is our strategy. Hope is our strategy. That's what we're doing. We're going to hope that this is real and that's how Cruz is going to perform against lefties. Now, he hasn't hit for any power, as you say, no extra base hits. But if he can just put the ball in play and get on base, I guess that's a win for him.
Look, I want to be wrong. I want Stuart Fairchild to go 4 for 4. I want Tyler Stevenson to go 4 for 4. I want Nick Martini to go 4 for 4. But you cannot convince me that there is a realm of reality, that there is a multiverse out there where Elly De La Cruz should get less at bats than any one of those players. I'm sorry. Like, I like them all. I like Stevenson. I like Fairchild. I like Nick Martini. They're fun. Elly De La Cruz is the star of this team. He deserves more at bats than they do.
Maybe David Bell's trying not to disrupt him. I don't know. But the Rocho checks in and says, in my personal opinion, it feels like they're just throwing anything up against the wall and hoping it sticks. It does feel a lot like that. It does feel, sometimes managers have talked about shaking it up, right? Getting everybody kind of shaken loose out of their comfort zones. And pretty much that's what this lineup reflects. Other than you aptly point out, he didn't move Elly. That could just be very well to keep Elly stable, not mess with Elly, because Ellie's doing just fine. So it's going to be interesting, Jeff, because there's just so much if with this team and lineup right now. And this is not the place that we thought we were going to be. This is not the team that we thought we were going to have. And yeah.
Wow. You got no Friedel, no McLean for a while, no Marte for a while, and then illness is taking also away Candelario and CES. That's more than half of the everyday lineup you thought you were going to have. So yeah, that is true. But the last person to hit a home run in this lineup is batting sixth, and the lineup needs all the help it can get after a weekend. And granted, the Mariners pitching staff is one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. The Angels pitching staff is not. But Elly higher up in the order just feels like a shot in the arm at this point. And to the point of why I saw this and I went nuclear. This team needs to score at least 4 runs against anybody. This team is not going to win very many 3-2 ball games. It's definitely not going to win too many 2-1 ball games. I'd venture to say they may not win any 1-0 ball games. Pitchers' duels will not be a thing for this team. It's going to be few and far between. They got to score at least 4 runs. Just hope that David Bell's plan. I have a hard time saying that word when I look at this lineup. I hope it works. But I know this. The pitching matchups this weekend are going to be interesting because that's just one. Tyler Anderson is just one of 2 left-handed starting pitchers. They're going to see plenty of lefty relievers in the Angels bullpens as well. We are going to look at how the Reds can take advantage of that because there's one thing they can do. We'll talk about that next. Head over to FanDuel right now because I have a parlay for you today. Spencer Steer is bouncing back in a big way I can feel it. By the way, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's $150 if you're new, whether this parlay wins or loses. And the parlay that I have for you is it's all about Spencer Steer, because Tyler Anderson is a lefty, and while that might be annoying to the Reds lineup on the whole, Spencer Steer is about to go off. He's batting second tonight, and I'm taking him to get 2 or more hits and for him to hit a home run. When you put those two things together, the odds and the payout is at plus 573. So you bet $10, you get $57.30. I'm ready to cheer for Steer tonight, man. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? And quite frankly, you might have had to turn down the volume on me today for the shouting, but that's just because of David Bell's lineups. You should make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team, every day. And speaking of every day, shout out to our everydayers on there. Shout out to our everydayers in the chat. Thanks, everybody, for joining in so much. You guys are a big part of what makes us go. For our everydayers, on the next Locked On Reds, we're going to be joined by the Super Halo Bros from Locked On Angels for a debrief of this series. Hopefully we'll have some bragging rights here. Our last couple of crossovers been talking about series losses. I hope we're talking about series win this time, Steve. And I've got one key for the Reds lineup this series. The way that they win is you make these pitchers work. You make Tyler Anderson work. You make Patrick Sandoval work. You make Jose Soriano on Sunday work. You make the bullpen work. Make them throw a lot of pitches, because both Tyler Anderson and Patrick Sandoval, these first 2 days, these first two lefties, are the quintessential Reds killers on the mound because they're soft-tossing lefties.
Yeah, the Reds absolutely have to get into the bullpens. I think they have to. I have to beat up on these starters, get these left-handed starters out. Two back-to-back lefties. We knew this was going to be a problem. We talked about this early on, that, the Reds, with the injuries, with the suspension, not the best version of themselves when a left-hander is on the mound, that, we wondered if teams were even going to try and set things up to get more lefties in against them, because it's a dramatically less effective team when a left-hander is on the mound. So the Angels, the stars have aligned for them. That being said, I don't think either one of these left-handed starters are untouchable. I don't think either one of these left-handed starters can't be knocked out of this game. Now, in the case of the Angels, they have some good lefties down in their bullpen as well. So just because you chase the left-handed starter doesn't mean you're off the hook. These players that we've been talking about are just fine. They can get out there and play them against lefties. We're talking about your Will Bensons. We're talking about your Jake Fraley's. We're talking about Stuart Fairchild with his splits being in there against lefties. These are guys that are going to have to dig in and perform if the Reds are going to have any chance to get it done this weekend. And really, frankly, after losing 2 series in a row, the Reds need to get it done. They need to win this series. This is the type of series that they have to win, because it does not get any easier from here.
A sweep does feel like losing 2 series in a row, that's for sure. But when it comes to these two pitchers, it's going to be key that they don't lay off the fastball. I know that's something that Jonathan India did a lot in the Seattle series, and that's one of the reasons he struck out looking 3 times against Bryce Miller, because he laid off the fastball. But both Tyler Anderson and Patrick Sandoval have a 4-seam fastball that they use to set up their best pitch. Anderson tonight is a big-time changeup guy. His changeup is nasty. The stats against it are, for Tyler Anderson, phenomenal. And all he does is he sets that up with his 4-seamer. So when you see it, hit it. Go for it. And he's also got a cutter he uses 3 pitches, but the changeup is his key pitch. You cannot let him get in, too far ahead in the count, because he's just gonna drop that thing out of the zone and get you to swing at one of those pitches. There's gonna be a lot of bad swings against him tonight, but he's not a big strikeout guy. The whole thing with him is that he gets you to swing badly, and then you just hit a weak ground ball, and it's an easy out. So that's going to be very annoying to watch. If that is indeed how it goes down, the Reds really got to key in on that 4-seamer.
And as good as Anderson has been to start the season, he's been pretty good. Sandoval coming up on Saturday, a little bit different of a lefty pitcher, right, Jeff? I mean, he's thrown a little bit less innings. He's only made it through 17 1/3. He's allowed more earned runs. He's given up 9 on 19 hits, 9 walks to 18 strikeouts. So he's more of a strikeout guy. He's all about missing barrels and kind of inducing ground balls. His true talent, where he's going to beat you, is with the breaking stuff. We're going to see him use his fastball to set up the breaking stuff, try and keep the hitters off balance, and get the outs that way, induce those ground balls. He's due to have a bad day, and let's have it on Saturday. He's come to the right ballpark to give up some home runs and have a bad day. But of these two lefties, Sandoval intrigues me. That's going to be an interesting game to watch, actually. I would like to see how the Reds get at him and get at that breaking stuff, because if they can either sit back and tag that fastball or actually get good reads on his breaking pitches, it could be a fun day at Great American Ballpark on Saturday. And I saw in the chat, our buddy Grant is going to be down there. Maybe Grant will bring the good luck to the Reds on Saturday.
I'm gonna hopefully bring some good luck too. Hopefully I don't even out Grant, because I'm gonna be down there on Saturday as well. But no, according to Baseball Savant, Patrick Sandoval throws like 150 different pitches. He has a slider, he has a curveball, he has a sweeper, he has a changeup, he has a splitter, he has a 2-seamer, he's got a cutter, he's got a 4-seamer. So he's gonna mix it up, but it's all about the breaking stuff. That's really where he wants to key in on. And then Sunday presents, yes, Nick Lodolo is pitching tonight. It was a late announcement. I was glad to see that he is pitching, but it kind of worried me for a little bit. It took the Reds so long to announce it, but with the illness that's going through the team and stuff. But back to the Angels pitching situation on Sunday, we're going to get a look at an interesting pitcher. You look at his ERA, and again, if you look at the ERA for all three of these guys, you're going to think that Sandoval's nothing special and Soriano's nothing special. Soriano's got a different mix of pitches. He is a thrower, and he's a right-hander, so the Reds will be able to actually set up their optimal lineup, but he is a thrower. Averages just below 99 miles an hour on his fastball, and then he mixes in, of all things, and if you would have asked me, okay, fastball slider, okay, fastball changeup, okay, maybe fastball split finger, fastball knuckle curve, yeah, I would not have guessed that, but this is what this guy does, and nobody hits his knuckle curve, at least so far this season. He's only thrown 15 innings, so it's a tiny sample size, but this is the kind of pitcher that the Reds should be able to take deep. He has given up 3 homers in the 15 innings he's pitched so far. And interesting nugget on him, and the reason why I bring it all back to the fact that the Reds just need to work the count, see pitches, force them to throw a lot of pitches, because the lefties, just get them out of there. But then Soriano as well. He was a relief pitcher last year. So you make him work, you might not see him for too long. And then they would have to throw a elongated bullpen day for the Angels on that day.
And what will be great is if the Reds follow the format that we're laying out and get into the bullpens the first 2 days of this series, get into the bullpen a third day in a row, they could tee off. And having the right guys in the lineup to do that is important, and they will with Soriano on the mound. One of the things with these matchups, Jeff, is how the Reds rotation stacking up against it. You're looking at these two lefties going for the Angels in back-to-back days, followed by Soriano. You just mentioned it. Nick Lodolo is going today. He's pitching here in just a few hours. The Reds were like kind of keeping it a secret. They were keeping things close to the vest with Lodolo going today. That wasn't announced till late. And then as they move forward through this series, I think the rotation as a whole is going to have to feed off what we hope is a repeat performance from Nick Lodolo in his second start of the season. and continue to build. I think everybody in the starting rotation rather was just a little dissatisfied with their work the last time through. Hunter Green was. We know that Frankie Montas was really upset with his last start. We're going to need to see rebound starts from everybody other than Nick Lodolo basically moving through this next turn through.
Yeah, and it's funny because if you go on like the At Bat app right now, they still have TBD for all three probable starters for the Reds, but it should line up as Lodolo tonight, Ashcraft tomorrow, and Frankie Montas on Saturday or on Sunday. Rather, I'm getting my days mixed up, but that's how it would roll with the rest and with the regular movement of the rotation. I find it interesting that they're TBD. I wonder how many people, because I've seen the reports on this that, Candelario was held out of the lineup because he was sick and they said flu-like symptoms. And then CES was held out of the lineup on Wednesday's game for an undisclosed illness. They wouldn't even say flu-like symptoms for him, but he was seen walking around the clubhouse with a mask on. And if you're saying that your possible rotation is TBD, this illness, and as much as any team has to deal with this sort of stuff, this could really mess with the Reds this weekend and maybe on into next week.
Yeah, there's a ton of flu/COVID/fluvid going around right now. Fluvid. It's terrible. It's like those are the people that have both at the same time. Let me tell you, you don't want to have both at the same time. All of those people come into the ER looking like death warmed over. The flu season's pretty tough this year. So I imagine that's just making its way through the clubhouse. Good to hear that they're like trying to prevent it from spreading around, but this could be a problem for a couple weeks, Jeff. Just like, when someone in your house gets sick, it makes it circle. Sometimes it comes back around for a hanaho, we say here in Hawaii, for a encore. And then you finally get rid of it. So this might not be something that's over with in the next couple days, is what I'm saying. They may be dealing with this illness for up to a week to 10 days.
As long as nobody starts turning into a ghoul. Shout out to Fallout. That's a great
All right,
show,
listen, this is what we know. This is what we know, Jeff. The Reds, no matter who's in the lineup, sick, not sick, they're going to have to make the Angels pitchers work. They're going to have to drive up their pitch counts, and they're going to have to chase them from the games and get into this bullpen, wear out this bullpen, and get some things done. That's just what they're going to have to do. That means somebody's going to have a good weekend. And coming up, we're going to tell you who will have the best weekend. Got that next. Baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Pick entry today. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can earn serious cash with your favorite baseball players. We're talking 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. You can put together a list that includes Frankie Montas strikeouts, Elly De La Cruz steals, Spencer Steer RBIs, and so much more. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for your first deposit match of up to $100. Again, download the app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. You can catch every pitch of the Reds' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. Also, make sure you bookmark si.com/MLB/Reds for written content about your Cincinnati Reds. Jeff's writing over there. I'm writing over there. James Rapine, Caleb Sisk, Audie Elmore. Great crew of writers covering the Reds in written form. All right, Jeff, in order for the Reds to get back on the winning track, to get back in the win column, they're going to have some good performances this weekend. And we should probably talk about who we think is going to have the best weekend, who's going to be the guys to step up and really help out with the lineup being wonky, with people being sick. It's going to be a challenge. And I'm interested to see who you think is going to be the breakout player of the weekend.
My first pick is Spencer Steer. I mentioned it when I was talking about FanDuel. Really think he's going to break out. He kind of had, honestly, of all the different guys who hit in the White Sox series, and then especially coming into Seattle, he was kind of on the sidelines, just watching everybody do that. And I think that he is going to break back out in a big way. this weekend, especially with the two lefties on the mound. I think we're going to see a lot of good stuff there. Him batting second in both these games. That's what David Bell has done. And I think we're going to see a return of the power and more of the run production that we saw in the first 2 weeks of the season.
All right, I've got one that's going to blow your doors off. Before we do that, though, if you're watching live right now, folks, jump down and click that like button. Help push this puppy out to all of our friends out there that may have not found us yet, that want to talk Reds, because we want to talk Reds with them. So click that like button for us. I would really, really appreciate it. Grant, yes, I am bringing the Mr. Miyagi magic today with my Miyagi-Do karate shirt. And to blow Jeff's doors off, the breakout player of the weekend is going to be Stuart Fairchild. He has heard your slander. He has heard your continued disrespect for what he is as a Major League Baseball player, Jeff. And as anybody that listens to this show with any regularity knows, the second that we're hard on a player at all, even a little bit, they have the games of their career. So given what has been said today, Stuart Fairchild is going to go 4 for 4 in the 3-hole and be the man. No, seriously, I like what his splits are against left-handed pitchers, and he's going to get back-to-back days of opportunity to put something together. I think he could really be a standout if he can just put the ball in play, and he's done that thus far against left-handed pitchers. If he can set the table, he doesn't need to hit home runs. He doesn't need to be a big power guy there in the 3-hole. He just needs to put the ball in play and get on base. Hopefully, India and Steer do their job 1 and 2. Fairchild has some RBI opportunities. That would be an ideal situation, and I think he could get that done.
I absolutely want to be wrong about him. I just continue to be right whenever we talk about Stuart Fairchild. Look, he's made some nice plays, and most of them have been with a glove so far this season. And, he's got a couple of steals and things like that, but I'm not writing a song just yet. I'm not picking out a tune. Like, guys got to hit an extra base hit before I get too crazy about that. Another guy that I think is going to have a good weekend, and I wrote something about this over at InsideTheReds.com. I had an extended segment about it yesterday, so I'm not going to go too crazy deep into it all. I kind of dove into the numbers and the plate discipline stuff that he's got. I think Jonathan India is putting it all together this weekend. He has been phenomenal. The stats around his plate discipline have been phenomenal, and the fact that he has seen more pitches than any other player in the league, which interestingly enough, one of the guys that's up there with him, we're going to see in this series, Logan O'Hoppe, the catcher for the Angels. But I mean, Jonathan India has got everything but the batting average going right now in the slugging percentage, because he's just not putting the bat on the ball a lot. In fact, he's swinging less than anybody, and he's putting the ball in less below league average, and then he's got a horrible BABIP to boot. So everything is working against him so far as his current production, but everything is pointing to the sky as to what is about to happen for him. I think he's going to go off this weekend.
Yeah, it's fun for me when the analytics and the old school eye test meet. And if you want to eye test Jonathan India, he's been having great at bats. You don't need to know about the BABIP. You don't need to know about his splits. You don't need to know about any of that. You watch a Jonathan India at bat, and he's battling. He's been making a lot of outs. Balls have been just not going where he needs them to go, but making solid contact, battling, having great at bats, making pitchers work. He's been doing all those things. So I think you're right. He is poised to break out. I think his stats are misleading.
He hit a Great American Ballpark home run, but he did it at Safeco, and it was caught on the warning track by Julio Rodriguez. Like, he's ready to go.
All right, let's get into some of the comment section here, Jeff. The guys have been talking over here, and we haven't really had a chance to work very much of it in, but I want to get to a few of these. Here we go. Brooks Poll says, Steer's been so solid. The unluckiness was wild with the Seattle series. Unlucky, was it unlucky, Jeff? Do we want to call it unluckiness, or is it just playing April baseball with the roof open in that wet,
40-degree,
heavy, 40-degree air? I mean, there were at least 4 different times that ballpark robbed players of home runs. Wasn't necessarily any defensive skill at all. It was just that ballpark.
Well, and that was the thing. It was like that ballpark, plus there were some plays that Julio Rodriguez make that only Julio Rodriguez could make, the range that he has out there. But yeah, you heard Cowboy saying it, you heard John Sadak saying it, like, probably in a week or two, that fly ball is going to carry into the stands. And they were saying that for both sides. They weren't just saying that for Reds hitters. There were some Mariners fly balls that probably should have been home runs as well, and they were all just dying. They hit a certain point in the air, and Seattle's cold, frigid sea breeze or whatever that is just destroyed it, and it found the glove. And there were so many of those different plays, especially for Spencer Steer. Spencer Steer also had some really hard hit grounders that happened to hit right into the shift as well. So I do think, I think it was definitely bad luck on the part of Steer. I think he's getting ready to go crazy this weekend.
Jeffrey Miller checks in and says that he loves the show, and we haven't made it to May yet, and he's already out of Tylenol. Yeah, Jeff and I are both out of antacid too. This team has given us a lot of heartburn. You know, it's interesting. I was wondering if there was going to be a lane to talk about this, because I just found it really interesting, Jeff. When we did our Hunter Green episode the other day, we were getting at it from all sides. I felt like I was getting stomped on the schoolyard, man, in the comment sections, because the pro Hunter people were mad at me. The anti-Hunter people were mad at me. Everybody was mad at me. You know, it's not necessarily about bringing the optimism, right? It's just more about bringing the realism. And I feel like, you know, Hunter's a great example of us trying to bring a realistic take, which is he's not been good. He's not been an ace. He's not been great, but we believe in his talent. We believe there's still hope for him. We believe he can get it done. You know, it's a very weird place to be, but I think a lot of times you and I are labeled the optimistic of whatever this lane that we live in on Reds podcasting is. But I think realistic is a better way to describe what we're trying to do around here.
Well, with Hunter Green, sure. I am an optimist, and I will admit that in years past, I tried really hard to convince people to follow that optimism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to tell you my optimistic point of view. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. You can be a Reds fan however you want to be. But I am going to present a pretty optimistic point of view of different things. I would say, okay, optimistic in most areas, probably pessimistic when it comes to Stuart Fairchild, maybe realistic when it comes to Hunter Green. I think that we're looking at him and we're just like, man, we see the talent. We just don't, where he is to where his ceiling is right now, there's a gap and there's a disconnect. I don't see, like, he's still got time to work on it. But yeah, no, that was a fun one where we were both too hard on him and not hard enough.
I know I texted you at one point in the day, like, I have to stop reading comments today. Everybody's after me. I'm done. Grant checks in and says he thinks Will Benson is going to be absolutely feral this weekend at Ballpark. He is going to go wild. Grant thinks he's going to be wired after being swept in Seattle. I would love to see Will Benson break out, especially since two lefties. You know, if he has a breakout with two lefties back-to-back days, that's a huge turn of events for the Cincinnati Reds.
He's gotten cold recently too, right? I mean, we saw a very hot start to the season, and he has definitely cooled off. I mean, he's still getting on base almost 33% of the time, but that OPS has dipped below 800. He's still hitting the ball hard. He's above league average with a 90.5 exit velocity. You still love to see the quality of contact stuff that he has. So I think that he hasn't changed as a player. He's probably getting a little bit unlucky, and I'm sure everyone is tired of hearing us say that. But I still love to see the walk percentage where it is as well. I don't think that he is getting cheated. Like, I've got a little bit of a Twitter thread going of Will Benson against lefties, and of the different at-bats that I've seen this year from him against a left-handed pitcher, there might have been 2 or 3 just non-competitive at-bats. And then there have been 2 or 3 at-bats where he has absolutely rocked whoever was on the mound. So I think that he is doing a pretty good job right now of trying to buck the platoon split.
There was a comment that went by, Jeff, and I can't go, I'm not going to go back and find it. So sorry for whoever put it. But I do remember the question. The question was just asking for an update on TJ Friedl. Is there any news, anything different? Last we heard, his timeline remains unchanged. I know there was some misleading national coverage of the Friedl update from the MRI that, you know, basically was kind of a clicky type of a headline. This was Reds get bad news about Friedl. Wasn't bad news. It was the news. It was the news that's always been the news. He's on track. He's healing. Still expect him to be back, probably starting all baseball activities in May. maybe back to the Reds late May. Could we see him sooner? Maybe, but it would be a miracle. Could it stretch into June? Maybe, depending on how fast he can get back into baseball shape.
Yeah, I think, and every day was a no. We've been saying this ever since he got hurt. Like, we were looking at June. We're basically just saying the first 2 months of the season, you're just not going to see TJ Friedel. So don't go too crazy thinking about it. And yeah, that I saw the national report, because the national report was almost a reaction to the headline. Remember the headline with Jonathan India with TJ Friedel whenever he was first hurt was, will be reevaluated in 3 or 4 weeks. I honestly think that the person that wrote that national report read that headline and nothing else. And so when they saw, oh, hey, he was reevaluated and wasn't good, oh, it's bad news. It was like, no, this was the news we were expecting. The reevaluation in 3 to 4 weeks was get the cast off, see where the swelling is, and go from there. Like, they weren't saying, we're going to get the cast off and he's going to be back in the lineup. That was not what they were saying. And I think he is still on track for what we've been saying all along.
Buddy Angelo checks in, says he wants 14 Ks from Nick Lodolo, 4 of them from Mike Trout.
First part's much easier than the second part.
Yeah. Which one's easier? What's more likely to happen? A 14K game?
14Ks.
14K game, right? Yeah, I don't know about golden sombrero for Mike Trout. I don't know that that's going to happen.
He isn't. So, okay, Mike Trout does strike out, but he's striking out like less than the league average hitter is right now. But everything, I mean, we always talk about this, right? I love to use Baseball Savant, and blue is bad, red is good. A lot of red on Mike Trout's Baseball Savant page. In fact, there's been a lot of red for a lot of years for Mike Trout. Like, he's got some golden sombreros in his career, but they are few and far between, man. And I don't see it happening this weekend.
All right, let's get to this next one. Grant says he thinks also that Tyler Stevenson is homering this series. We are 39 away from being where we need to be with Tyler
being where
Stevenson.
You need to be. I never said that.
That's true. That's where I need to be. God help you all if he ever hits 40 home runs in a season. I'm saying it's just buckle up.
It's gonna be like
20.
It's gonna be like 2027, and you're gonna be like, I said it, and I'll be like, yeah, you said it in 2022.
Doesn't matter. I'm going to play that clip on a loop. Our buddy Josh checks in and says, here's a fun one, guys, just for something different. What classic uniform would you like to see come back for the Reds? Josh says he likes the red with white pinstripes and the red C on it. There's a couple with pinstripes and a C. You guys probably, that watch on YouTube here, see that I wear from time to time the 1967 Reds home jersey. That looks a lot like the Big Red Machine jersey from the 70s, except that it's a button up with pinstripes. I think it's way better than the pullover. That's probably my favorite jersey, Jeff. If there was one that was going to come back into regular circulation, I would love for it to be that 1967 jersey. But the Reds have had some fun jerseys throughout the history of this organization. And that season, was it 2019, the 150th?
Yeah.
And sorry, Cam. Sorry, Cam. Yeah. I know Cam Miller's like twitching. That's what they called it, the 150th anniversary. Right. We can have that conversation next off season if you want. That season where they rolled that was such a fun season of variety. And I wish that, being the oldest professional baseball team, they would lean into that more and do things like that.
I think, following along with the fact that I am wearing the navy blue alternate from Memorial Day, I want to say like 2014, 2015, or whatever year it was. I'd love to see them bring back those navy blue uniforms with the like wishbone C, or not the wishbone, though, like wacky wishbone C. You know what I'm talking about? Like that one.
I know which one you're describing.
Pretty sweet.
It was blue. It was a blue jersey with red lettering, red numbering.
Yeah, I really like that one whenever they showcased it in 2019. With all the different ones. The cigar pocket one was fun, but I mean, there really wasn't much to that. That was just white with a C on it and a cigar pocket. So that was about it. No designs or anything like that. But yeah, give me the navy blue ones.
Yeah, the uniform you're talking about is that hat right back there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I like that color combination for some reason. I don't know.
No, and and I'm not saying a permanent change, but I really liked how they did that rotation where it changed up. And then as much as people buy the grab bags at Reds Fest and do the authentics and the auctions, I think they could really find a way to make it a good community fund driver, for the Reds community fund to just, have these jerseys available that you could buy game worn. And I would love to see it, Josh. I'm with you. And really, if it may be time for a regular everyday uniform overhaul anyway. I really love the City Connects. I'm still not a super big fan of the hat, but I do love that jersey. And I think because it's so different, because it's just so out of this stale norm place that they've been now for years. I think the whole brand, this would have been the perfect season because the energy changed, the youth movement is on, the prospects have arrived. Bring some fresh energy with the Threads as well.
They could do what some NFL teams are doing and come out with new uniforms where they just move the stripes like an inch up the sleeve or something like that. No, I would like to see some new uniforms. I'm not going to lie. I'm not the biggest uniform person. Like, I think they're fine. And like, unless they're just horrible looking, and I don't know that there's a lot of horrible looking baseball uniforms. I didn't love the City Connect jerseys for either the Cubs or the Dodgers just because they weren't different enough. Like I love the Marlins City Connect uniforms. I think those are fantastic just because of how different they are. And I would like to see something new there. I don't really have a strong opinion as to what I think it should look like though. And I'm in the tiny group that doesn't mind / doesn't care about the drop shadow. I know that sounds sacrilegious, but I don't care. Sorry, Cam.
We're getting called out from Lawrence Pennington. It's like, how did Hunter Green do after talking bad about him? Yeah, that's an outlier. It didn't fuel a no-hitter or anything like that, but we'll see how he does his next time through because we spent a lot of time talking about what he needed to do his next time out. So I'm looking forward to that being proven wrong yet again on that start. Charlie says Lodolo is getting lucky in the way that his first couple times back. Look, there's something to that. Obviously, it was the Chicago White Sox, right? I mean, it was the perfect alignment to bring back Nick Lodolo, and there was probably strategy. So I'm all in for it.
Look, sometimes a rookie quarterback needs a screen pass, and that's what he was gifted here with his first two starts. I'm happy for him because then that just gets him into a groove, and then when we need to see Lodolo pitch against the Brewers or the Cubs or the Cardinals, he's ready to go. I did just see this though, Steve. We got a little bit of breaking news. Charlie Goldsmith says that David Bell said TJ Friedl could start a rehab assignment in 10 days to 2 weeks. That is well ahead of schedule.
Yeah, so if he goes on rehab before the end of the month, let's say 10 days,
probably
gets
needs
it to the
at least
29th.
2 weeks.
Yeah, let's call it May 1st. That would say May 15th at the earliest.
That's
to see TJ Friedl.
That's
better than the mid-June. That's a month ahead of schedule. That's a month of the regular to slightly delayed. So okay. So they just got to survive 3 more weeks. 3 more weeks.
We just got a good segment for Monday's show where we look at how the roster could move with TJ Friedl back because
who else is hurt that we can
playing.
Who else is hurt that we can conjure back into the lineup? But that was fun. Let's do that again.
I mean, if Matt McClain, he's not going to be, but if Matt McClain was that early, but yeah, I mean, August even kind of feels optimistic for him, but yeah, that was good to see. And then like talking about, getting Noelvi Marte back because he's going to be hungry. And look, I hate what Noelvi Marte did. And I think that, he's definitely going to have a lot to prove whenever he returns, but he's got all the talent in the world, and I think he can do it. So excited to see him back in the lineup.
Still with the jersey talk here. Grant likes the sleeveless jersey, and
same.
And Carrie checks in with the sleeveless shirts. Always reminded Carrie of the big clue in the olden days. What was it during that Derek Dietrich, right? That through the big clue vibes when that particular
And then
didn't wear an
Lorenzen
undershirt,
followed
just out
suit.
there,
Yeah.
just out there in the vest. I love it. I love it.
And
All
Lorenzen
right, what else do you
followed
guys
suit.
got
That
before
was
we
good.
get out of here? Let's Scott's lobbying for Friedel to do his rehab with the Dragons.
Just depend if he's at
keep-
home. It'd be nice if it
so
did.
you don't have to go far. I love it. Let's talk about Mike Ford for a couple minutes. Mike Ford has been having some success. That's what he's supposed to do. He's a Major League Baseball player playing in Louisville. He should be having success.
Yeah.
I'm not overly excited. I still view Mike Ford as a tremendous insurance policy. I don't think anybody views CES or Candelario's illnesses as being long enough to warrant a roster move just yet. So
No, I don't.
but
I don't think so.
but if they do, I don't know if that whole COVID list thing is still hanging around where you could. I don't think
I
it
did
is.
look
So-
that up. It's not. It's not.
So that being said, it would be a challenge once you call Mike Ford up to get him back down to Louisville. So if you're gonna burn that bullet, it needs to be for a real significant injury, and then you use Mike Ford. But in the meantime, great insurance for if that big injury ever comes.
The hardest thing for me is like when I look at AAA. I think Mike Ford is the only guy that I really want to see them call up to play any amount of at bats, and that stinks because I mean the rest of the position players just don't excite me at all. Like it would be super emergency, like don't want to see them play very much or something like that. I know that they just claimed a player off of waivers from the Orioles. I was trying to look up his name because I saw it before we started hitting record and I can't remember, but I also did see as well last season he had an OPS of like right around 700 in the minor leagues. Talk dirty to me. Oh boy.
Barry Campbell says Capel 6 home runs, 294 average.
AAA.
He's not ready for prime.
AAA's
He's not ready for prime time, folks.
AAA is there's such a gap, and I've referenced this a couple of times every day or so. No, but I've referenced this a couple of times throughout the spring training and stuff. There was a great report in The Athletic by a couple of writers that were talking about player development, and they just think that there's such a gap now between AAA and the major leagues. Like it's a big enough gap that they think if somebody is going to be worth developing, then you just call them up because there's a plateau that you reach at AAA. And then there's a huge gap to where that you want them to be at the major leagues. So it's
the
nice
Brandon
and
Williamson.
good
We can call it the Brandon Williamson effect. That's a great
Yeah.
illustration of what you're talking about. Like he was doing nothing.
Yeah.
He was doing nothing in Louisville, and they put him in the rotation to big league level, and he just kept getting better every time he went out.
Yep. Because they're and look, I mean, it's nice to see the guys are succeeding. I don't want them to not succeed in Louisville, but I don't want to go too crazy overseeing Louisville numbers.
Right. Legend pops by. Thanks for joining us. Says he's late to the party, but he just wanted to pop by and say hi. Loves the show.
Excellent.
We love you back. Carrie says, isn't it strange that only the Reds have had the bug last year and now any other team sick? That's the thing. We talk about this sometimes, right, Jeff? I know you and I talk about it off air. I think I've said it a couple times on the show. The fact of the matter is, I looked up the injury numbers. I looked up just the overall IL stint numbers for Major League Baseball. And the Reds, while they're bad, they weren't the worst. They were like 4th place, if I remember correctly. They were about 4th down the list for injured list appearances.
Yeah.
I think it just for us feels like the Reds are always injured because we watch this team every day. We follow this team every day. While it's news for us that CES and Candelario have this illness and aren't in the lineup, that's not getting national reporting. And that works the same for all the teams. So if somebody for Kansas City has the flu and is missing the lineup, we're not going to know about it. We're not going to see it. So I think that's why it feels that way.
I saw some Red Sox fans because they just put Tyler O'Neill on the 7-day injured list. I saw some Red Sox fans saying nobody has it worse than we do. Every fan base thinks that they are the worst luck when it comes to injury, unless you are just having the best luck. Like 2012, the Reds could claim they had the best luck ever because you had 5 starting pitchers the entire year. But yeah, everybody thinks that they got the worst luck when it comes to injuries.
Will Rich pushing back on your theory a little bit, Jeff, and there might be something to this, but Will says MLB teams are promoting big league to the big league sooner to avoid overpaying vets. There may be an element to that for sure. I mean, I could see that.
But I mean, that the article itself was just talking about player development, and I don't think that they're dismissing player development for the sake of just saving a buck. Like, I think that they understand what they're in, because, I mean, what if you just 5 years ago we were talking about service time manipulation? Like, that is no longer a thing. The Orioles called up Jackson Holiday well before any day that the Super 2 deadline could possibly be. They just don't think there's any value to keeping him at AAA anymore. You're actually stunting his growth if you keep him at AAA too long, and that's really what the focus is more on. And Jackson Holiday is the number one prospect in baseball, so there's another reason behind that too. Lots of talent.
All right, let's try and get one or two more before we call it a day and get ready for tonight's ball game. Sorry, Jeff. I lost my place over here. Multitasking is not my strong suit sometimes.
It's all good. Yeah, I'm excited this weekend to see Lodolo pitch again, to see just how he can follow up that first start. Maybe he can go 6. That'd be kind of cool to see.
This is a good reminder from Ronnie. Ronnie Snyder checks in and says, it's really unfortunate that the Reds literally only have 6 of the 9 everyday players that they were counting on for this year. Hopefully Friedel gets back, that mid-May would be great. It's worse than that right now. We talked about they were playing with
Candelario,
33% of their lineup out. That 3 has gone to 5. A majority of this lineup is out right now. And, we talked about reach the end of May, 500 or better. This team as currently constructed can do that. And if it does, if we reach the end of May, 500 or better, this team is positioned to make a playoff run as they start getting guys back. I'm not ready to worry. I think I feel the pain though, Jeff. I feel the pain of Reds fans that are more your age than my age. At least in my childhood, the Reds won a World Series, right? I was in middle school when the Reds won in 1990. There's a whole generation of Reds fans that come after me, your lane, that haven't really experienced any type of winning. And the fact that this team was showing so much promise and getting so much press and has so much talent, the expectations for the 2024 baseball season went through the roof. Mm-hmm. And then that balloon got popped real fast. So I understand the level of disappointment that's coming out from Reds country as these things happen, as this team gets swept in a series they should have probably at least won 2 of 3 in Seattle. I understand the frustration. I understand the disappointment, but it's April, guys. Remember, it's just April. This team is still in it. This team has a lot of time to rebound. A lot of talent is coming back towards this team's lineup. So I'm not ready to panic. I'm not upset yet. I'm with you though. Game to game, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to keep calling out bad performances. I'm going to keep being upset when they lose, but I just want to keep giving a big picture reminder too. And not only for you, but for me, that it's just April and there's a lot of talent coming and this team is still okay.
And big picture wise, I will ask you if the balloon of expectation has been popped for you, I would like you to revisit that in June and see what you think, because I think they're going to be right there in the middle of it. I don't see a 9-9 start as being anything indicative of the fact that they're just doing a good job surviving, missing some key players.
All right. I think that's probably a good, let's do this. Anytime I can talk about Billy Hatcher. Brian says he was at game 2 of the World Series. He was 11. Billy Hatcher was the hero of that series. He was. I'm not sure if that record still holds, but I know that in that World Series, Billy Hatcher set the highest batting average, like 750 for a player in the World Series. Joe Oliver, game 2, doubles down the left field line for Billy Bates to come and score as streamers fly onto the field at Riverfront Stadium. Good times. That's where we're ending it, Jeff. Get us out of here.
Absolutely, Steve. Thanks, everybody, for checking out today's live edition of the Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure if you're not following us, if you're not following us and you've hung on this long, you absolutely should follow us on your favorite podcast app and right here on YouTube. Also, click that bell to get notified whenever we've got new content for you. And if you're watching us here on YouTube, always remember, too, you can take us with you on your favorite audio podcast app. We've got a link to that down in the description of today's episode. Go check that out, and you can take us with you whenever you're driving or, you're doing something that you can't watch a video on. Coming up on the next Locked On Reds podcast, the Super Halo Bros from Locked On Angels will join us to debrief this series. Hopefully, we'll be talking about a Reds series win, so you're not going to want to miss that. That's coming up on the next Locked On Reds podcast. Till then, Steve, what can people expect from you and me?
Well, to answer Brian's question in the chat really quick, we are live sporadically in season. We do it when something happens. We do it when there's big news, and we do it when my work schedule in the ODR gets in the way. That's why we're live today. What we're going to keep doing for you all is our regular Monday through Fridays in your feeds. We're going to gather up all the news, the notes, the crazy ass David Bell lineups. We're going to bring all that information back right here and keep you locked on Reds every single day.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I put together a better lineup in backyard baseball.
He pulled them from a hat, dude. I'm telling you.